Welcome back all of you. Once again, it's Backpack. And today we are in one of the most important places, not only in the region, but in the whole world. It is the Grand Egyptian Museum, a place where you can learn and enjoy a lot of things about ancient history. And this museum will allow Egypt to be a hub. Actually, when we talk about this hub, it's going to be the hub of ancient history, not only in the region, but again in the whole world. So talking about the Grand Egyptian Museum today, in particular, we'll be talking about the laboratories or the labs inside the museum. We have about 17 labs. For example, we have the stone labs. We have another one that is dedicated for wood pieces. Also, there is the organic and inorganic labs. We have many labs here actually working on all the pieces that they receive in the Grand Egyptian Museum. Today, we are in the Wood Museum, and I'm lucky to be standing here in the center surrounded by all the belongings of King Tutankhamun. And definitely we all know that this king actually is one of the most famous pharaohs, and his pieces are very unique. We're going to move on here around and we'll bring you more about King Tutankhamun and more about his belongings. Let me tell you also, by the way, that here just close to me there is also another important piece, that is King Tut coffin, and this is removed here, or has removed actually for the first time, to be taken from Luxor, first time ever to be removed from its place, and now it is here in the Grand Egyptian Museum for more reservation to take place. Then later it will be exhibited in the Grand Egyptian Museum. Let's take a look here around and find out more about pieces here inside the lab. Egypt has been known as the most ancient center of civilization, art, and culture. Throughout history, during the Pharaonic, Greco-Roman, Coptic, and Islamic periods, even during times of invasion, art has operated as a common denominator. The constant expression of life through art has remained an inherent trait of Egypt and its inhabitants. The Grand Egyptian Museum is conceived to be an exemplary of manifestation of this trait, exhibiting civilization with all its dynamics, the land of Egypt, kingship and state, daily life, religion and knowledge. A dream that came to reality, to have such a great museum in Egypt with a great mission, not only to Egypt, but to the entire world. know more about this lab? What are you doing exactly, and what about the pieces received here?
This is an organic lab. This contains three materials: metal, pottery, and viands and jewelry. This simple gallery contains the finished pieces of the artifacts, such as segment statues from bronze alloy, and pottery from clay, and shaped from sands, and contain glazed layer.
So you mentioned three kinds actually you're working in here. Metal, right?
Koreans?
Yes.
Yes, we have coins from several metals, such as copper or billion or silver. This lab contains three materials, and we have a specialist conservator in equal materials, such as we have some conservator work in the pottery, specialist in the completing the missing parts, and we have a specialist conservator in the metal, coins, statues, and we have some persons have master and they make PhD in these materials.
Definitely, it's not that easy, right?
Not easy. It's difficult works. In the first, we put plan to make these restorations,
Analysis, experiments, so as to go back to the origin of the piece, so as when you work on it, try as much as you can to keep it as it is.
In the first, we make documentations, examinations, and analysis to put good plan to make good restorations to the piece.
The translucent stone facade is one of the key elements that gives a strong iconic status to the Grand Egyptian Museum when viewed from a distance. It makes the distinction of what is inside and what is out. Stretching for a length of 64 meters and rising 24 meters with a width of 85 meters at the bottom, in addition to 17 meters at the top. The grand staircase will create one of the principal chronological themes that will define the storyline of the museum for the visitors. And from here one can say that the technique of the display will change the traditional concept of museums in the whole world.
I'm very much interested in this gallery, by the way. Tell me more about it, starting, for example, with this falcon, which is something that's very, very famous for ancient Egyptians.
This From silver, manufactured by holy casting technique from silvers, and they have golden layer. In the first, we make mechanical cleaning by soft brush, and we in the finals we make or protect it from the atmosphere, environmental, but by putting parolid coating. And this is segment stitches from late periods manufactured by hollow casting technique, and they have some active corrosions. In the first, we make mechanical cleaning also by soft brush, and sometimes we use autocatalytic reductions to remove the active corrosions. And in the finals, we make or we put the PTA to stop the active corrosions, and put paraloid coating in the ends.
What about, is it a sphinx or what beside him? I cannot read.
Sphinx statues from New Kingdom, from silvers, and they have golden glare.
Just, the idea that still no one can ever believe that all these pieces belong to thousands of years, It's amazing, actually. Moving on to the one behind, for example, which is, we can see all the details, even in the eyes, for example. Everything is really very well protected.
This is inlay from stones, precious stones.
Mm-hmm. So, can you tell me something about these three as well?
Okay, this segment statues from manufacturers by hole casting technique also, and from bronze alloy from late period, but two from New Kingdom, from silvers, and have golden glare also.
The other one is not gold, also silver and gold plated.
Yes, plated from golden glare.
The main idea here is not only the idea of the project, but who is working in this project. They are all Egyptians, all of them are young, and working so hard to prove that the Egyptian youth is capable of performing such a great project, whether in its labs or packing or the archaeologists themselves. There will also be a space for children to learn, share, experience, and create.
Tell me more about what are you doing here exactly?
Okay, as you can see, they are gilded bronze statue. They dates back to third intermediate period and late period. They are gilded bronze objects for Osiris. We
Both for Osiris.
yes, we bore for Osiris, and we also we document we carry out documentation for this object because they are rare objects in our lab. So documentation comes from historical, archaeological context and dimensions, and to identify the chemical component of corrosion product and manufacture technology of this object. So it's this comprehensive documentation for this object. Yeah.
How long will it take you to work on these pieces, for example?
Yes, it takes. It's difficult to identify.
For example, this piece.
This piece, because we don't only carry out some treatment procedures, but also we do some additional analytical procedure to identify chemical components of the alloy and the deterioration aspects of this object. So maybe it takes several months. Yeah.
What about this piece, for example? What is it?
This, as you can see, this is knife. That has been discovered in the Middle Kingdom, one of the Middle Kingdom tomb.
This is the whole collection?
Yes, yes, this is the whole collection. These knives, some of them as adze, some of them in needles, as you can see. They are mainly made of copper. As you can see, some of them are broken. Some of them covered with green corrosion products, and some of them also have broken. So our mission is to remove corrosion products from the surface of copper models with mechanical cleaning. We don't use chemical cleaning because it has detrimental effect on the surface of copper, and also in the case of broken object, we use some of reversible material it can be removed in the future. Yes.
I think it's something very interesting. I mean, the idea that you're sitting having belongings of ancient Egyptians and pieces that we used to just to see in the museums or to read about, for example, like Osiris, and I believe there were other pieces, precious pieces as well.
Yes, you are right, because we sometimes we call ourselves we are lucky because you touch some object dates back to 2,000 and 3,000 years old. So it is, and also it is great honor to us to conserve and preserve our ancient Egyptian heritage, not only for now but also for future generation. Yeah.
The Grand Egyptian Museum will allow Egypt to become a major worldwide hub for pharaonic history and a must-visit place for Egyptologists. The site chosen for the gem is only 2 kilometers from the legendary pyramids. With its unique position on the cusp between the past and the present, the Grand Egyptian Museum will just bring you more about ancient artifacts that creates an interactive experience for the visitor, building a bridge between the past and the future.
This object made from bronze, and it is for a god of Apis. It returns to late period. The main place for this object is Upper Egypt, and it came here from Cairo Egyptian Museum in Tahrir. When it came to our lab, I started to make some documentation, starting from taking some photos and making some researches about this object. Then I am starting to make cleaning for this object. This object was suffers from some dust and some corrosion and some cracks. I tried to remove the dust with some brushes. Then I used some chemicals, materials such as acetone and toluene, something like that. And finally, I make isolation for this piece by using material paraloid. I used the paraloid to protect this object in the future to be stable. and don't make another corrosion on this object.
I can see also some other pieces here, right? They are all finished. And do you have any things that are different? For example, this one. What about this one?
From,
Can we take a look at it?
this object also from a piece, got a piece, but the difference between this whole collection is from metal, bronze, but this object from stone. This
Maybe that's why it attracted me, because I felt it. This is different, but they are all for same age, or they belong to different ages.
no, all of this collection is from a late period, but some of these objects came from Lower Egypt, and the other came from Upper Egypt.
What are the materials you are using? I can see here several bottles to be used. What are the main materials that usually you use when it comes to metal, for example?
Paraloid to isolate the objects from other dangerous corrosion.
The translucent stone facade is one of the key elements that gives a strong iconic status to the Grand Egyptian Museum when viewed from a distance. It makes the distinction of what is inside and what is out. Stretching for a length of 64 meters and rising 24 meters with a width of 85 meters at the bottom, in addition to 17 meters at the top. The grand staircase will create one of the principal chronological themes that will define the storyline of the museum for the visitors. And from here one can say that the technique of the display will change the traditional concept of museums in the whole world.
That was all for our backpack for this week, but still we have more to bring you about Egypt and about the beautiful sites to visit. The Grand Egyptian Museum is going to be one of the must-sight places to visit here in Egypt. But definitely we have many other places, we have many beautiful destinations where you can enjoy your vacation. Next week we will be back to bring you more about Egypt and more about the fascinating sites here. And always remember, Egypt is the cradle of all civilizations. Whatever you are looking for, you will find it in Egypt.